finished in 1955, I believe. So that means that this was probably released for promotion for Disneyland because the park opened in July of 1955. I almost wonder if they sold this in the park. Giddy up, poke along. Donald Duck flipped the reins impatiently. Soon as we get home, I'm going to open this envelope. It's my birthday present from Daisy, and I'll bet it's something wonderful. Is that so? Snarled a voice in his ear. If it's so wonderful, you'd better hand it over to me, partner, and make it quick. It was Bear Claw Bill, the meanest outlaw, who chewed cactus instead of chewing gum. At the sound of his voice, Donald was off down the road like a bullet. After all, Bear Claw Bill was 5 times bigger and 10 times meaner than anyone else in the West. Help! Help! Where will I hide? Donald squawked. What'll I do? Then, right in front of him, he saw a railroad station, and coming down the track was a train with a sign on it. Disneyland Special. Still squawking loudly, Donald jumped aboard, Bear Claw Bill behind him. Up and down the aisles they ran, until at last Donald closed his eyes and jumped right out the window. When he opened his eyes, he was astride a horse on the biggest merry-go-round in the world. Everywhere around him, there were boys and girls laughing and shouting as they hurried by. Some were boarding a boat to ride down a long canal. Others were climbing aboard a flying ship. All aboard for Neverland, a man shouted, and the ship flew off through the air. That's for me, thought Donald excitedly, but the next moment he saw Bear Claw Bill on the horse behind him. Help! Donald jumped from the saddle and dashed into a nearby tunnel. He raced down the passage, past tiny mining cars, being pushed by the 7 dwarfs. Big diamonds glistened in the walls, and an old witch lurked in the corner. Then he was in daylight again, past Sleeping Beauty's castle. He ran across the drawbridge stretched a long street lined with all kinds of shops. At one side, a great sign announced Adventureland, and people were lining up to board a ship for a trip to the South Seas. Crowds were welcomed on the other side by Frontierland. Rifles cracked, and a stagecoach and whooping Indians raced by. Everywhere there was fun and laughter and exciting things to do, but no place to hide. I see you, Duck, roared Bearclaw Bill. You give me that birthday present. Donald dashed through a gateway marked Tomorrowland and ran up a ramp to a huge rocket ship. One ticket to the moon, please, he puffed. Quick. He looked over at his shoulder and saw Bearclaw Bill rushing up the ramp too. Then Donald had an idea. Here, he said to the ticket seller, let that big fellow go in on my ticket. And he held the door open so Bearclaw Bill charged right in without even noticing where he was going. Donald slammed the big door and peeked through the window. There's a squirrel right here. After a moment, the great rocket began to tremble as it prepared for takeoff. The people inside tightened their seatbelts and leaned back to enjoy the ride into space. All except Bearclaw Bill, who looked around him in real terror. The trick began. On giant screens, one could see the world growing smaller as the ship seemed to leave it behind. Meteors raced by, and the moon came closer every second. Poor Bell. First he hid his head under a seat. Then he curled up in a corner and howled. When at last the make-believe journey was over and the ticket seller opened the door, he tottered out, looking like a pale ghost among the laughing, excited riders. When he saw Donald Duck, he just moaned. Oh, go away, he pleaded. I've had enough for one day, and he stumbled down the ramp out of sight. Phew, Donald explained. I've had enough, too. Guess I'll rest a minute and open my birthday present before I start for home. He slit the envelope and looked inside, and then he began to laugh. He laughed until he nearly burst. Ho, ho, who wants to rest? He chuckled, jumping to his feet. I'm going to start all over. For inside the envelope was a small card and a note that said, and let's see if I can read this. Happy birthday, Donald. I looked all over for a present that would bring you nothing but fun, and here it is. A ticket to Disneyland. Love, Daisy. That was a lot easier to read than I thought. And here's another picture of Disneyland. see